just a reminder to me that that's what I need to be about doing, but it's a reminder to me that that's what we all got to be about doing. And Barnabas was given the nickname Son of Encouragement. Now, I know nothing about his dad. So I don't know if his dad was a big encourager, and maybe that's why he got the name. I don't know if he got the nickname because God is also his father. I don't know if he got the nickname because sometimes saying son of means that you are made of encouragement. Anyhow, the people around him got to know him as an encourager, somebody who lifts them up, somebody who's continually affirming and investing in them. And they gave him a fitting nickname, Encourager, or Son of Encouragement. And then his life continued to show that's exactly who he was. And so the nickname fits, right? The shoe fits. The thing is, right now, we love in our society a real shallow definition of encouragement, which is give somebody a tiny boost, right? Give everybody a little boost, a little lift. But encouragement is more than that. It's messier than that. It's harder and more involved than that. It's a commitment. It's a walking with. It's a sweating with. It's a bleeding together. It's a laughing together, crying together, and everything in between. Hey, guys, somebody raise a hand and invite these two into your living room, will you? They're just standing out there waiting for some love. So one of the things that I don't like about our current society and the current status of things here in our world is that mentorship, discipleship, discipline, training, all are almost bad words. Because we don't want to admit that we need help, actually that we're desperate for it. We don't want to admit that the strength we have is not enough, because we want to believe we have enough strength, because we'd rather believe that we have enough strength than to have to trust that God's strength is enough. Isn't that true? It's a terrible, sinful lie that we've accepted since the garden. And we have to keep rejecting it at every turn. We are built to need each other. We were designed to depend on God foremost, and each other as God's proxy. You know what I'm saying? God flows through us. Now, if we don't choose to obey and be active encouragers and investors in other people, it's like we're a water faucet, like the one outside of your house, you know, your water spigot, and God wants to flow through, but you keep cranking the spigot closed. So it's just a drip here or there. And we call that, I'm encouraging other people because I said hi, because I smiled at somebody, because I said how you're doing. And those are great steps towards the ultimate goal. But if that's the summary and definition of what it means to encourage each other, man, we need some help. Because what Barnabas did was to invest and to believe forward. Last week, God spoke and we changed the direction of our service because he wanted to remind us that we have to be believing with motion. Standing still and believing is not even real belief. Belief is in action, right? Have you felt challenged on that lately? I hope you have. Okay? Encouragement is also all about action. And it's about believing forward for somebody else. Believing, expecting, praying for God's best for somebody else. It can be mentorship. Where one person is pouring more into the other, you know, and there's a dynamic of maybe somebody who's more mature, walked with God for longer, pouring into somebody who maybe is growing in their faith and new to believing. That's kind of what mentorship looks like. It can be side by side, iron sharpening iron kind of commitment to each other, journeying together. And really it should be a mix of both things, right? And going both ways as often as possible. There's a lie that goes, I mentioned it before, that lie that goes back to the garden where we started to believe that It'd be better to do things under our own understanding and our own strength. But there was another lie that crept up not long after the garden in that same family. Remember the story of Cain and Abel? Cain got so mad that God showed grace, mercy, and even joy at Abel's offering, because it was more of a sacrifice of self and more of an honor to God. And so he got mad and killed his brother. And then God asks, "Where's Abel?" I picture him saying, "Where's my Abel?" God knew, right? But what did Cain have the audacity, the cojones, to say? He lied to him. But more than that, he questioned all that God had already shown and taught them again. And he said, basically, "What am I, my brother's keeper?" And the whole rest of the Bible tells us, yes, you absolutely are your brother and sister's keeper. Because remember, we're a proxy for God. God works through us. We're that faucet that's meant to be flowing. We're meant to be looking out for each other. We're meant to be praying for each other. We're meant to be lifting each other up. We're meant to be carrying each other. We're meant to be aware of each other. We're meant to be welcoming and embracing each other, forgiving each other, sweating together, serving God together, experiencing life together. When God said, "Where is Abel?" he was reminding Cain of his responsibility as well. And he was reminding Cain how much he values each life that he created. And Cain had just tossed one away. And he says, "What am I, my brother's keeper?" He was being totally cynical. And then God says, "What have you done?" Of course, he already knew that answer too. He says, "Listen, your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground." And when God talks about the blood of humans in the Old Testament, he's consistently talking about the value of our lives. Your brother's life cries out to me from the ground. That destroyed value of his cries out to me from the ground. The New Living Translation says it this way: "I don't know. Am I my brother's guardian?" The Message says, "How should I know? Am I his babysitter?" The Living Bible says, "How should I know? Am I supposed to keep track of him wherever he goes?" The English Standard Version says, "I don't know. Is it my job to watch over my brother?" And I like that version because watch over gives that implication of it's not just be aware of your brother, it's be invested in the wellness of your brother and sister. I'm watching over, I'm caring, I'm there for you. Our goal is to understand what it really means to be our brother's keeper. That's what Barnabas knew. It's what Jesus taught. In John 13, Jesus said, "The identifying mark for all of us who would follow him is our love for each other," right? They'll know we are Christians by our. Paul in Romans puts it this way. So as Christians, we are to be our brother's keeper. Paul wrote, "Therefore, let us pursue the things which make for peace and the things by which we might edify, encourage, and build up one another." Therefore, let us pursue the things which make peace and also the things which build each other up. Are you your brother or sister's keeper? Romans 15, 1 and 2. "We who are strong ought to bear with the failings and struggles of the weak and not to please ourselves. Each of us should please our neighbors for their good to build them up." Now, when it says please your neighbors, it's not like give your neighbor everything they want. God's not shallow. It's please their life. It's bless their life. It's invest in them. Have you had people that have invested in you? Have you had a Barnabas that invested in you? And even people who don't believe in God can invest in and encourage. But there's certainly a greater value to the encouragement and blessing and investment that a Christian can do, that a Jesus follower can do. So Barnabas, his actual name was Joe, or Joseph. He was a Levite who lived in Cyprus, came from Cyprus. After he began following after Jesus, he joined with that group of believers that kind of was centered around Jerusalem. He was a generous man. In fact, we know that at one point he sold the property that was his to have, and then he gave the money to the church there to help those in need. So he was an encourager, and he was generous. They think he was probably one of the 70 that followed Jesus around quite a bit. Remember, there were the crowds, there was the 70, and then there were the 12, and then there were the 3. One who encourages. That's a pretty good nickname. If people are looking at your life and they decide, I'm going to nickname you encouragement because I see you encouraging, that's a great nickname. You know what my nickname was growing up? Budley. Budley. Or if my dad was really energetic, it would be Budley Boo Diggeriggy something or other. And then in middle school, it was Doogie, because people thought I looked like Doogie Howser. And then my camp name was Sketch and some others. And then somebody nicknamed me the Mattress or the Matrix. None of my nicknames are as cool as being named, a trait of God. Think about that for a minute. We think sometimes, what would people say at my funeral, right? What do people say about you now? Man, that Gavin, he's sure a good friend. That Jay, he sure is filled with joy and peace. That Chris knows how to walk alongside somebody. That Rochelle knows how to love freely and openly. Think about the things people could say about you or do say about you as a testament to God, because all the glory keeps going back to the Creator, right? Because you didn't create yourself. Now, if we're going to be generous and have a good heart and invest in it and encourage people like Barnabas did, we need to be really careful, because encouraging, investing in, pouring into somebody, helping to disciple somebody, helping to mentor somebody, where can Satan creep in to that picture? Arrogance, right? We can approach somebody thinking, I've got it together, I'm going to help you. We can approach somebody in a judgmental way. Man, you got this thing to work on, and that thing to work on, and this thing to work on, and I ran out of a sheet of paper. What does God say about all that, right? Judge not, lest you be judged. Don't be pointing out the speck in your neighbor's eye when you got a big old 2x4 sticking out of yours. So we're to invest in each other, we're to believe in each other, we're to pray and seek God's best for each other, but we are not meant to tear each other down. We are meant to build each other up. So don't be thinking you got to do it like boot camp, where they break somebody in order to build them the way they want them. That is not our job. And trust me, if you go to break somebody, you're going to experience some breaking yourself. It's investing, and it's really beautiful when it's mutual investing. And it's a commitment, man. It is no one-time thing. Yes, keep doing the one-time shots that boost other people. That's loving. We're already taught we have to do that. But encouraging somebody is going further than that, and longer than that, and deeper than that, and more intentional than that. It's my wife and I trying to help each other become more like Jesus, as she helps me to see some of my own blind spots. But also she lifts me up and encourages me and reminds me of God's truth and hope when I struggle. Because we all struggle and fall at times, right? And then there's forgiveness and new opportunity, that restart of the level of Mario Brothers, right? You get to try again. And if you're going to encourage somebody, you better be as grace-giving to them as Jesus is to you. Give it out as you'd like to receive it, right? Barnabas trained up Paul. Barnabas invested in Paul over a long term. In fact, when Saul first believed, and Barnabas and others saw how he could be used by God, and the disciples heard about his belief, they questioned and they wondered, and they ultimately wanted to reject him and push him away out of their fear and unsureness of what he would bring to the table. Guess who stood up for him? Guess who recommended him? Guess who said, I'll vouch for this guy? Guess who said, I've seen this, and I've seen this, and I've seen God's hand in this? Who did it, do you think? Barnabas, yeah, that's the right answer. Or Joe. We always think of Paul as like this incredible leader, very influential, and he was those things and more. But Barnabas invested in him and trained him. There's an interesting thing that happens as God used the authors of the New Testament. Early on in Paul's life, you see it listed Barnabas and Paul. Barnabas and Paul did this. Barnabas and Paul went there. And then there's a subtle or not so subtle shift where all of a sudden it's saying Paul and Barnabas went here. Paul and Barnabas did this. That's a beautiful picture. It also shows us that Barnabas was willing to step back over time for God to shine through what Paul was and who Paul was. Are you willing to believe in somebody else so much that you'll pour into them until they might even surpass you? Whatever that might be. That's tough for our ego, right? If we admit it a little bit. So, my team, the Seahawks. Thanks, Mike. We're playing the Rams the other day, and my quarterback, who I'm more of a Russell Wilson fan than even a Seahawks fan in a sense, snapped his finger and is probably out for the whole rest of the season. So the backup quarterback comes in, and it's interesting on the Seahawks because Russell Wilson hasn't missed a start ever until now, his next game. Has had the least amount of playing time out of all the backup quarterbacks in the NFL. And all of a sudden, he's got to come in and play as Geno Smith. And did really well, actually. But one thing I know about Russell from watching his life and his interviews and kind of learning about how he approaches things, and he's a believer as well, is that he will invest in his backup, Geno Smith. He will cheerlead him. He will probably struggle ego-wise with not being able to play because he's human. But he's going to believe in and do anything he can to support that backup player. I've had people invest in me like that. It means everything to be seen and valued and promoted by other people. It's fun being a pastor. One of the fun things is hearing you guys promote each other and share stories of how you guys have been encouraging each other. If I could leave any challenge with you today, and that's my goal right now, it would be that we see ourselves as all called to encourage. It's a life calling, and y'all have it. It's also a spiritual gift, so you might have more or less of that, but that's a God thing. You trust Him with that. He already gave you the command and the calling to encourage and build each other up. Which means, and we're saying this over and over, don't think encouragement without thinking investment. Okay? Pour yourself, pour your life into somebody. And you're all doing encouragement. But I want us to leave here today like motivated, compelled, and feeling the responsibility and privilege of being each other's keeper. And by keeper, that's a hard, that language is tough for us to really own nowadays. It's care. It's caring for somebody for their best. It's being on our health and wellness team. It's investing. My current doctor, I switched doctors not too long ago, is somebody I've known through a lot of years of my life. We've done ministry together. She's a good friend. But she's so much more invested in my wellness and so much more available, so much so that I have to be careful not to take advantage of that, right? But we were texting back and forth even yesterday, and she was making a suggestion about something for my better well-being or health. I want you to feel the need, the compulsion, the responsibility and privilege of being each other's keepers and caregivers. I want you to purposefully, proactively invest in people more than you already are. Because you're already doing some. And some of you are already doing a lot. That doesn't mean you have to do a full-on official mentorship with everybody you come in contact with or things like that. But it does mean pouring into somebody else. So Barnabas poured a whole lot into Paul, and we see what Paul did, right? But you remember when we talked about John Mark? It's been a few weeks. Who joined Barnabas and Paul on a missionary journey, but partway through he left them. In Paul's words, he deserted them. Paul was not happy about it. And then later they're on another missionary journey, and Barnabas is like, John should come with us. He was related to John also, by the way, we think. John Mark should come with us. And Paul is like, no, he deserted us. I don't think he's mature enough, or something along those lines. And Barnabas was like, no. See, we should give him another shot. And Paul's like, no. So much so that they split ways. And Paul went one way, and Barnabas went the other way. And I'm not going to say Barnabas was more right, but I have a feeling he might have been. But I think they were maybe both right. Because God's often bigger than my brain can wrap myself around. I think in ways they were both right. As far as Barnabas being right with John, he invested in him, believed in him, and gave him another chance, another opportunity, another window. He believed that not only he could grow, but that he had potential. Do you get tired of hearing stuff like that? They have such potential. He believed in John Mark. And then what ended up happening? John Mark went with Barnabas on their missionary journey, and he served well. And then on the next missionary journey, Paul's like, hey, you should send for John Mark to come and join us. Where are our Barnabases today? Another thing we don't do a whole lot of anymore, and sometimes smaller towns like ours are a little better at it, is living in family community too, right? Like grandparents helping to raise grandkids, aunts and uncles investing in the lives of kids, and the whole family caring for each other. And some of y'all have got that. It's the same thing. It's investment over the long haul. And why would you bother to invest in somebody other than the fact that God says to? Why would you? Why would you bother to sacrifice some of self to pour into somebody else? Why? If you don't know why, you're not going to do it, so you better come up with some answers. Why? Okay, there's rewards in that for sure. What else? Okay, to show them how to do it. What else? To help to grow. What's that? How to learn. And we'll both learn more in the process. Why else? Can I tell you what I think needs to be the main motivator? Nope. That's a good one. And this is Matt's perspective, the main motivator is that blood that cried out to Jesus, that cried out to God after Cain killed Abel. We are worth it. You are worth it. You are incredibly valuable. You need to exist because God wanted you to. I am willing to invest in you and spend of myself into you because when I look at you, I see value like what God talks about me. In fact, I feel more comfortable seeing the value in you than I do in myself, and that tells you some of my own struggles, right? You matter so much. When God cried out to Cain, when God accused Cain, when God questioned Cain, man, sure, God could have stopped it. But I believe God was heartbroken at how that value was treated. Where's my Abel? Oh, I don't know. Am I supposed to take care of him? Son of encouragement, builder of people, investor, with a generous, kind heart, willing to walk the extra mile with you, for you, vouching for people who are being discarded, you stand up and say, no, 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 this guy has value. You don't even know what God's going to do through Paul. And then to Paul, no, Paul, John is worth investing in. John, you matter. Come on, let's go again. Investing in each other over the long haul. I hate in our society that we flippantly say things like, I'm so done with blank. And it's a person's name? How devaluing, how ugly is it for us to think and say and feel those things? I'm so done with blank. And I hear God saying, their value is crying out to me. How dare you mismanage the value of that other person? I'm over them. No. No, 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 no. We invest in each other, long haul, brotherhood, sisterhood, linking arms. You invest and you believe in the value of the people around you, and you make more of a difference pouring into them. Don't just smile and greet, but pray for them. Call on them. Listen to them. Connect with them. Be there for them. Be humble and serve them. What God gives you is for you and for them. Father God, show us how to bless each other more and more by investing in each other more and more, and hoping and praying towards your best for them, and looking for ways that we might show togetherness and value to each person, that we might come alongside. God, help us to value the life of each individual person that we come across and do something about that value. And God, we trust you in the moment to show us the length that we should go. Maybe it's somebody who you want us to just encourage every time we run into them. Maybe it's somebody you want us to go further than that with, to be reaching out to them more and coming towards them more and investing in them more and with more time. And maybe you want us to tell somebody, hey, I appreciate you, and I want you to know that I pray for you. And it's not just some trite prayer, like I really pray for God's best for you. God, I know some more partnerships need to be developed among our church family where people are walking alongside each other like iron sharpening iron. And some are already there that simply need to increase. God, help us to make the sacrifice of time to do so. And God, there's some of us who feel really alone right now. And probably the idea of somebody coming alongside us even frightens us a little bit at times. I pray that you would help us to get over our desire to appear like we've got things under control. You would help us to see our own humanity. You would help us to be more and more comfortable and in love with the fact that we are designed to need you and each other. Please, God, don't let anybody suffer and journey solo. Amen. Hey, we're going to have group time now. Love you. Our groups have different rooms available. I don't remember which hosts are going where. Hopefully you guys remember, but the 2 small group rooms are open. The youth room's open for the youth group, aged people, and all that kind of stuff. See you back in here around 11:30.